Now to a piece that was in The Australian this week by Dr. Bella Diabra from the IPA. It was a fantastic piece on the race-obsessed academics using universities and your taxpayer dollars to focus on how racist we all are. She wrote, "The racism industry is flourishing on our university campuses, which are no longer in the business of producing objective and impartial scholarship that will edify, inspire and educate future generations of Australians." Claire, I don't know if you read the piece, but I thought she really covered off some key points, and the amount of public money that has gone into these research projects that are just so solely focused on race and racism seems completely out of kilter.
Yeah, I don't really think it's a problem to study racism or how racial attitudes are changing. Actually, I think it's a very important question. But the problem with these academics and universities at the moment is that they often start with the answer first and then engineer the question second. And that's a problem. So we're seeing more and more academics functioning as activists who have already made up their minds on a particular issue and then create studies to sort of prosecute their ideas. And that's, as Bella says, that's not scholarship. Real scholarship is having an open mind and asking a question and then following the data wherever it leads. And so it'd be really interesting if some academics decided to study racism and found that racism had decreased in Australia.
They would be ostracised. I mean, we saw with that the so-called squared hoax, where these absurd woke studies that were done were getting peer-reviewed. So these aren't just studies, they are getting peer-reviewed and being just then accepted as gospel eventually. You're probably remembering some of the stuff they went through. What do you think about this? We are seeing also the growth of junk degrees. There's just so many degrees that are saddling the graduate with a debt and not much in the way of job prospects. And you know, it's not good for the individual student. It's not good for the taxpayer. It seems to only be good for the university's coffers.
Yeah, well, it's criminal, isn't it, to lump somebody up with debt when they have no job prospects? I think about all the kids that I went to university with to study journalism, and the universities happily took their money, and very, very few of them are ever going to work as journalists because it's disproportionate, the number of degrees we're churning out. Now, if you take it to something which is far less practical, like gender theory, how many people are actually going to be employed? It's fine if you're very wealthy, but I think the problem here is, and I do think it's a very worthwhile thing to study. The problem I have is when the totality of it is paid for by the taxpayer. So this research council, the Australia Council, divvies out of these funds. It's what, $300,000 here to gender, power and race in the revolutionary Atlantic. That's not even an Australian topic.
Oh, no,
so why would the taxpayers foot that bill? And it's, to me, it gets absurd when a race economy is created. Of course, they're all going to find these solutions. It pays for the next project. It pays their bills if they all support each other. So it's cyclic, and I think it's, it's a bad place for academic rigour as well.
There is, and there does seem to be this groupthink in academia, which we're always talking about, where we're seeing students, Claire, even self-censor in class, students who are not willing to say what they think because they think not only are they going to be attacked by the other students, but it could affect their grade, which is pretty grim.
Yeah, that's right. Certain subjects have an orthodoxy, and students know that if you comply with the orthodoxy, you get good marks, and if you question it, you don't get good marks. And so the output becomes really predictable and ultimately really boring.
Absolutely. So what's the point? You go to university to have robust debates.
We're no longer critical thinkers. You know, I used to do it at university. I could see what my lecturer wanted and I just did it to get out of there, you know?
See, I was bad.
I was a coward.
I couldn't help it. I would be the one who would just be challenging everything, depending on the class.